Hi all, welcome to this afternoon session with Jonathan, Matuza, Neil, Ahmed and Xavier on how devices enrich Teams meetings experiences. Gentlemen, over to you, and I'll let you take the floor.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you everyone for joining, and some of the early birds who joined a little early. It's great to see you all this afternoon, and if you've chosen this session, you've chosen it for a good reason. We've got some of our best presenters at Poly. Let me do a quick round of introduction, starting with Neil Fluester, who's product director for EMEA, and we've got Jonathan Clark, who's product marketing manager. Again, for EMEA, we've got Zav Keeley, who's our client services development manager for EMEA, and we've got our from Dubai, especially here with his biking clothes, Ahmed Souza, who is the SE manager for Middle East and Africa region. Simply because our product line is so large, it would not make sense for one person to present the whole product line. So we've got 4 people, and we did not stop there. We also have some live demos for you in the second half. So this is going to be a really interesting session. And after the demos, you'll have time to ask your questions and answers. We will start with a few slides that we have, and let's see who's coming up first. Is the presentation on, team?
Yep. All good.
Awesome. So first up is Ahmed Souza, SC manager, and he's going to speak to us about Poly headsets. Over to you, Ahmed.
Sure. Good afternoon, and maybe good morning or evening for someone who is not in the same time zone. My name is Ahmed, and I'm glad to be speaking to you today. Now there is a story behind the if you name it costume that I'm wearing, but we'll tell it to you later. What we wanted to cover today is talk about Poly solutions, and as you might know from history, Poly was an integration between 2 companies, Plantronics and Polycom. And definitely we take a great input from both companies, and headset was one that came from Plantronics side. Now, when we look at headset, we really look at the profile of our customers, right? And when you look at the enterprise, we found that the work style there varies from person to person. And we could group them into 3 different categories. Office-based people, and within that category, you also have subcategories, flex and remote, and then executives. Now, what is notable that the needs for every group is different. And that means although the solutions that they're looking for is different, everyone has different challenges when it comes to collaboration, doing work with their peers, and they're looking for a solution to address those. Now, those challenges can differ from where they work as a physical space, but can also differ on what hardware they are connected to in terms of headsets, and of course the platform they're working on. So if you look at the chart in front of you, within the office-based people, which represent 43%, we have someone who is office communicator, office collaborator, and office warrior. Now, what is common between them is the work around the office. Some of them can be in an office, but it's actually all the time remote, like someone working from home, for example. That can be an example. Their communication needs varies between someone who is using a desk phone, maybe emails, other is using a different way of communication, like lots of PCs, lots of IM, and so on. And those can be addressed by different solutions from our side. when you look at the flex and remote, this is a very interesting group of people who are not only in a one fixed location, but they're on the move. Some of them can be even communicating during that move from one location to the other location. And you can take an example of, for example, someone who's a sales executive running around, wants to get things done, and he does lots of communication during his move. Last but not least is the executive, right? Again, calls every time, everywhere. Doesn't matter which location it is. There is a very strong need for communication. So the beauty is we got solutions to address all those different personas and to make sure that they can communicate in the best possible way with their peers. If I go next slide, Murtaza, you're gonna see that those solutions are really robust, but they all also deliver a business grade quality that our customers are used from Poly. And the beauty that it doesn't matter really where people work, you're gonna find here stationary solution, mobile phone station, personal USB speakers, speakerphone, and even out of office solutions. Now they vary based on the style. Different people like different style of headsets, and based on that they can select the right one. And of course, we would recommend the one that matches the tool, the place where they work. Now, let me stop 1 second at the mobile phone station, because it's a very interesting concept that we came with last year, where you could really, for those people who are using their mobile phone as their UC station, this is a very interesting solution to look at, because it can serve not only the video part coming from the mobile, but of course the audio part as well, with a built-in speaker, headset, the ability to switch between both, and also the compatibility, definitely use Teams. I put Teams logo here because most of our solutions and all the new ones are Teams certified. And the beauty is many of them also comes with the purple color bottom from Teams. And of course, the interaction with the team application is a theme here, where people like to control their calls from the headsets to interact with the application. Now, people, if we go to next, Murtaza asked me, why Poly? Why especially shall we look for your solution? I would say call quality is awesome. If you look at the theme between all those personas you saw, noise can be a great influencer of the call quality, and we make sure that we can overcome that. We can provide also a very robust cloud solution that manages all the headsets, so you could understand what's going on with the usage of the headset, the adoption, if people are using the headset enough, and if not, you can figure out why. Asset management, look at all what you have and understand where it is. And definitely a big part of health and safety, where you could see if there is any problem in the sound quality, on the level of the sound that's coming out from the headsets, and if that can affect your employees. Last but not least is the analytics. A very interesting analytics can come out of the platform after managing all the headsets portfolio that you might have. With that, I leave you for the rest of my colleagues to take you in a journey on other solution area. Back to you, Murtaza.
Thank you very much. So next up, we have Neil Fluester. Neil, apart from being the product marketing product director at Poly, is also a very popular YouTuber. And if you've not already subscribed after this session, please go on, watch some of his videos. And if you like them, subscribe to his videos. You get something interesting every single week. Neil is going to speak to us about the Poly collaboration bars. They are the latest and the greatest that we've come up with. Over to you, Neil.
Awesome, thanks, Matuza, and checks in the post, by the way, for that great intro. So, yeah, my name is Neil Flewster. I'm product director here at Poly. I've been with Polycom for 7-8 years now, and now part of Poly. As Matuza said, we do a lot of content on YouTube. So if you haven't had enough by the end of this session and you want to see some more, do go over and search for Neil Poly on Google. I'm sure you'll find us. Do you want to throw us into the next slide and we'll crack on with this? So I'm talking today about the video part of Poly. Again, as Ahmed has mentioned, the two companies come together, Plantronics and Polycom, coming together to make this new company, Poly. Polycom was always synonymous with the conference phone and the video system through many acquisitions through the year. When it comes to Microsoft, though, and it comes to Teams, there is no vendor on the planet, and I can say this confidently without breaking any competitive clause, in the fact that Poly is best placed for every single aspect of Microsoft Teams, whether it be certified handsets, certified headsets, certified conference phones, certified video devices that I'm going to talk about in this part, and also our cloud video interop service. There is no vendor that offers the breadth and the width that Poly does when it comes to Microsoft. When it comes to our video portfolio, we are the only vendor that can offer both pieces of the Microsoft Video Offices, or actually all three pieces, because we have the Cloud Video Interop service as well. On the left-hand side of this slide, you can see our collaboration bars. This is a new entrant and a new segment that Microsoft has created. It's an Android application written by Microsoft that runs on these dedicated collaboration bars. Now, what's a collaboration bar, I may hear you ask, and if you weren't muted, I'm sure you would. A collaboration bar is an all-in-one device. So it's the camera, the speakers, the microphones, and the compute, and that's the important bit, all in a very simple and elegant little video bar you can drop on top or drop underneath a screen, and with a simple power, Ethernet, and HDMI connection, you can be up and running with a native Teams experience. So it looks like Teams, smells like Teams, because it is Teams. Very low cost, very quick and simple to deploy, and great for the smaller kind of meeting rooms. On the right-hand side, you can see more of the classic style Teams room systems, or MTRs, that you're all familiar with. These are x86-based, PC-based solutions with our G10, G40, and G80. These are new products that we brought to the market, and these are around that traditional classic MTR architecture around, say, an x86 compute, and then Poly's amazing peripherals with our camera tracking, framing, and our acoustic properties, which we're going to talk about in the coming slide. Do you want to throw us on to the next slide, and we'll talk about why native is so important and is the new open, Matuza, in here. So native is a big thing. If you're all in on Teams, if you've moved from Skype to Teams, you want to be all in, you want to be running that Teams experience. So we have, as I say, that full Teams experience. And one of the biggest things that we're talking about at the moment is something called proximity join, with everybody going back from the home into the workplace with all these COVID germs still floating around. The ability to be able to control and to join a meeting from your mobile phone, your cell phone, if you're that way inclined, and be able to control the meeting without having to touch a shared control interface is really important. I call it KYOG, or keep your own germs, as well as being able to support BYOD and bring your own device. So really important, and that's why native is a real big piece. The last two bits I wanted to cover out is what separates us and makes us different from the competitors. And again, we're going to do some live demos of this. So here's the slide to frame this up, but we're going to do this live, no safety nets, all in live. So the great thing about our hardware is that we have baked into it our artificial intelligence and our innovations around audio and video. So all of our video solutions include something called noise block. Noise block is the ability to differentiate the human voice from extraneous background audio, typing on the keyboard, eating crisps, dogs barking, children screaming. We also have something called acoustic fence, and acoustic fence allows us to block off specific areas if there is unwanted extraneous noise. And again, we're going to do that live and show you that live and how that works. If you want to just drop me onto my last slide on our innovations, it's not only around audio. Again, our heritage of Polycom Plantronics has always been about audio, but from a Polycom side, it's been around video. And we actually have machine learning and artificial intelligence inside our cameras. So from our simple, basic USB video bar that's just a USB camera, it has baked into it machine learning that is able to do facial recognition and audio triangulation to track and frame people in the meeting room. So if you have just got one person working from home because they're sheltering in place, they're getting a great remote experience and trying to get them to feel as closely connected as if they are in the same room. And it even works, and Jonathan, I think, is going to do this live later, it even works with a face mask. We are the only vendor that I know of that can actually do live tracking whilst wearing a face mask, and hopefully we're going to show you that to you live. I think that's it for me. The only thing I'm going to just finish off on is just to reiterate that last point, I believe, in the last slide, Matuza, is around our heritage. I'm hoping. Are you going to go on to the next slide?
No, the next slide.
Okay, well, I'll just talk about it anyway. We have 15 years of heritage with Microsoft. As I say, no one has that breadth of products that we have. Headsets, handsets, conference phones, video devices, and a cloud video interop service to be able to sweat your assets and protect your investment. And I'm going to throw you over to Jonathan, who's going to take you in deeper with the MTR. Johnny?
Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you, Neil. We are going to pull you back in when you said you're going to do the promised no nets demo for us. Yep. Jonathan Clark, over to you for the Poly MTR piece.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Neil. Yes, so Jonathan Clark, Product Marketing Manager EMEA. It's a pleasure to be talking to you today. And I'm just going to follow on from Neil in terms of our next generation room systems from a poly perspective in terms of our Microsoft Teams rooms that we launched back end of May and will be shipping at the end of this month. So if you move on to the next slide. So Neil covered off the collaborations bars for Teams, which are designed for those smaller meeting rooms, around 2 to 4 people size room where you need a single screen. You want to share content using proximity join or using your Teams client, but there are occasions or rooms where you need to have the capability to be able to share content via wire by plugging in HDMI connections as an example, or you need to equip your larger meeting rooms or your conference spaces with cameras with a bit more capability. Obviously, our beamforming microphones that you get in our devices from the studio or the collaboration bars through to our larger meeting rooms and our conferencing phones that we've used, our Poly Trios, for those that are familiar with those. We've recently launched our latest next generation conferencing phone called the Trio C60. But this is just providing, full Teams using that Windows computer at the center of your meeting room. And we've got some different packages based on those different room sizes to give you that capability. So our especially if you look at the left-hand side, we've got our Poly G10T, which is the compute, and our GC8 controller, and that sits at the center of the meeting room. That you can control. It's got the familiar Microsoft IoT interface on there, so that if you've been using the Microsoft Teams room, you're going to get that same experience across your whole room portfolio, whether it's a smaller meeting room through to your larger conference rooms where you need some more complex cameras, more integrated microphones, etc. So we do the Poly G10T, which is for anybody with existing cameras that they want to use, or any existing audio inputs that are USB Teams certified devices. So these can be connected to this device, or we do our packaged versions, which is as we move left to the Poly G40T, which is for your small to medium rooms, up to about 4 meters. With that wide camera angle view, 120-degree field of view, it's got the integrated microphones, it's got integrated speakers, and that sits at the front of the room, all driven by the touch controller, which sits in the center of the room. And our unique from that perspective is how we bring the cables. So we're simplifying that whole cabling message from at the moment. You maybe have to have your compute on the table and under the table in the desk, near the table, and what we want to do is simplify that with our capabilities and our new connections that we're going to talk about in the next slide. So you have the small to medium rooms, and then on the right hand side, if you go back a bit earlier there, we have the Eagle Eye Director 2, which is again our camera framing, camera tracking for your larger rooms. These are up to 10 meters. On the right hand side, where you can put in extension, you can use the Trio as the audio input, and then you've got the bigger 10-meter range cameras. And again, you can daisy chain these devices together to give you full room coverage for those. But the idea is, as you move on to the next slide, is that you walk into your meeting room and you have the one remote, the one controller that sits in the center of the room, no matter on the sides of the room. Obviously, we have our own USB certified peripherals, our Eagle Eye Cube device. It's the camera I'm using here as a USB peripheral plugged into my laptop, but it is a Teams certified device and can connect to a Microsoft Teams room system. Or from an audio perspective, we have the Trio 88 or 8500 that can be put in USB mode and use as a USB peripheral into a Microsoft Teams room, which we've been using in our earlier partnerships when we worked with HP and Lenovo as part of those MTR solutions. And then we have an Eagle Eye 4 USB 12x zoom camera. This is not automated. What we're trying to do from as we move forward is put in a lot of meeting AI that takes control of the meeting so that people don't have to pick up remote controls. The camera uses facial recognition software. It will frame the speakers. So depending on the room system, yes, these devices are available and can connect to those Teams rooms because they are Microsoft Teams devices, Microsoft Teams certified devices, but we're trying to automate that as much as possible to keep it as simple as possible for users, that they don't have to interact physically with the systems. There's a lot of automation in there, as we move back into those office spaces, as Neil mentioned, that it will frame people, it will automatically gate some of those noises without having to interact with the system. Next slide, please. So in terms of, and again, we've talked about the dynamic video experience, the Eagle Eye Director 2 for your larger meeting rooms, which will pick out active speakers. It will also give you a composite view of the room. And then on the right-hand side with our Poly Studio, with the meeting AI, we've got what we call conversation mode. So if you've got a couple of people, socially distanced 2-3 meters apart, and they're having a conversation, rather than panning out, and yes, it can do that to make sure that they're in shot, but you do get smaller and smaller as you pan out as more people are in the room. And what we have with conversation mode is that it will take a snapshot of those two speakers as they engage in a conversation, and it will put them side by side. And it doesn't matter if they're at the front of the room or at the back of the room. The beamforming microphones make sure that the audio is equal, whether you're sat at the back of the room or at the front of the room, and also it right sizes the people so that they're next to each other, and it tries to make their eye contact. So in this particular instance, Brian on the left-hand side is sat down, Joe on the right-hand side is actually stood up, but it takes that snapshot and puts it side by side. So it's a much more natural meeting experience. But the great thing is nobody in the room has had to do anything apart from start talking and interacting as they are doing. The technology in the room takes care of everything else. Move along. Next slide, please. So these are the components. I'm not going to go into detail. We have the GC8 touch controller, which sits in the center of the room. It's all about cable management. So we take all the peripherals and move those to the compute, and that compute sits away from the desk, so nobody's going to unplug anything. We're simplifying that whole cabling process, and that compute sits either behind the screen or sits in a credenza out of the way so that nobody interacts with it. And how we connect it securely is using a fiber optic USB cable. So there's no requirement for extenders or anything like that. So we're really extending that capability. So it's nice and simple and seamless as we're doing that cabling from the remote controller, from the controller that sits in the center of the room, that's securely fastened into one cable. And then that goes through under the floor, out the way from people. And again, we do different lengths of that. So that's keeping it clutter-free. Next slide. And then, yep.
Yeah. So you presented the MTR so well, we decided to keep you for our phone session as well. So it should speak a little bit about our voice solutions.
Yep, lovely. So as we talked about MTR, so as Matuza mentioned on the headsets at the beginning, we have personas and different use cases and different use styles. Similar with our phone selection, we've got different varieties based on the use case that you need. But in that Microsoft Teams environment, whether it's an entry-level common area phone or it's an office knowledge worker that needs a bit more grunt and a bit more horsepower from the system, through to the executive, we have a range of phones at the right price point. That gives you that high quality audio that we're synonymous with from our Polycom tradition, through working closely with Plantronics and some of the capabilities that we're building into these devices, to give you that seamless native Teams experience with a nice 5-inch touchscreen or a 7-inch touchscreen, depending on the device, but it's interacting as a native Teams device. So we have legendary quality audio, built for performance and reliability. 99.9999% uptime of your devices, and giving you that platform of the future. All running latest Android, so that they're current, but built on all the audio capabilities that you're getting from a Poly perspective. So you move on to the next slide. In terms of the device, we're on to the Trio C60, which is our new conferencing phone. So those are familiar with the Trio 88, the Trio 88 500 devices. This is the next generation Trio. We've kept that iconic Trio shape, which we're synonymous with, and we've had tremendous success with the device. We just beefed up the power capability in terms of being able to support Teams, and we've made it a bit more casual in design, so that modern design. So if any of you have seen any of our collaboration bars for Teams, you recognise the look and feel, and everything that would be touched by a person. The control device on the system that sits on the top is very much like a mobile phone in terms of look and feel, and can be wiped down. It's got volume and mute controls on the feet of the device, and you can plug in your own device and use that, and use it as a speakerphone if you want to. But as a native Teams device, giving you that full, rich, native interface, being able to join Teams, but giving you that legendary audio capability with all the noise block AI capabilities that we have in our systems. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yep. Next up is Zav Keeley from our services team. He's going to speak about our services portfolio. Over to you, Zav.
Brilliant. Thanks, Matuza. Yeah, if you can roll on to the next slide, that'd be perfect. Cool. So the guys have just talked you through a lot of what we do here at Poly. So if you look at this slide, this is kind of like the headline summary. And those, if you look at it from left to right, they've covered the bottom 4 little dots of what we do around video, conferencing, desktop, and headsets. And my bit really is all about what we do from a software and services perspective, because Poly is about more than just shifting boxes, even though the boxes that we shift are absolutely fantastic, as the guys have told you and we'll be showing you shortly. The way I like to think of it is that the software and services bring that stuff to life and turn it from a product into a solution. And we're all about making sure that you can get the most out of the investments that you've made, makes it easy to manage, easy to deploy, etc. So we've got a suite of software and services that helps you to do that. And I'll talk through some of those at a high level today, and feel free to ask any questions at the end. But if you can move on to the next one, Matuza, please. So something I often get asked actually is, why are Poly in the services game? Because a lot of people know, either Plantronics or Polycom from the legacy perspective. We were very much into building products, but both Plantronics and Polycom have actually been in the services game for a very long time as well. I think I come from the Polycom side, and that was at least 15 years we've been doing this type of thing. And because we're the vendor, we build this stuff. We actually know more about this than anybody else. And because our solution consultants and our specialists on the technical side, all they do is this stuff. They really understand it in a great amount of detail. We can also deliver this stuff globally. So it doesn't matter where you are, we can deliver that, as long as it's one of the getting tongue-tied there. As long as it's not effectively places like Iran or places like that, we're pretty good to go. And one of the things we're trying to do as well is make sure that we maximize your investment. So if you're coming to Teams from something else, maybe it's from some of the legacy Polycom devices, or dare I say it, some other vendors as well, we can help make that work and make it work easily, so that you can get the most out of that until you're ready to migrate to one of the new native devices that we've shown just a short while ago. Yeah, Matuza, can you move on, please? Thanks. So I'm going to whistle stop through these today. So I'm going to touch on some of the cloud services that we've got in terms of REALCONNECT and Lens, which some of you may have heard of. So I'll come back to those in a second. We've also got some professional services for that are team specific. So I'll spend a little bit of time on those. But just as a headline, we've also got services for headsets. So we can do things like supporting on-site deployment, so we can show people how to use them rather than just go, there you go, there's a box, off you go. We'll stand there, give them the live demos, let them go away with confidence they know how to get the most out of them. We can make sure that your sites are well suited for headsets with things like wireless density surveys. Or if you've already deployed the headsets and want to make sure that things are going well, we've got a comfort and cleanliness service, so we can come and make sure that you can get some more life out of them, refresh the devices so you don't have to go out and buy new ones. We'll get more life out of the investments you've already made. And we can complement that with extended warranty type solutions. We also do all the traditional break fix scenarios that you're likely used to with any of these kind of hardware purchases, so they all remain there. And from an implementation perspective, we can deploy it on site if you want to. One of the newer innovations, which I think fits quite well in today's environment, is we can actually do remote implementations as well. So rather than us send an engineer with the box to go and install it all for you, we can jump onto a Teams call, walk you through what you have to do to set it all up without ever having to come on site. So if people are isolating or sheltering in place, doesn't matter, we can still help get people up and running. Next slide, please, Ms. Souza. Thanks. So I know Neil mentioned it a few times there, but we've got a cloud video interop solution, which we call REALCONNECT. Actually, this is something that was invented over at Polycom back in the day. So the inventor still works for us here at Poly, and we've got a bunch of the patents. And what the cloud video interop is designed to do is to bring those old aging devices that I referenced a short while ago into the Microsoft Teams environment. Does work for Skype as well, but to be honest, we're all trying to get out of there and into Teams, so I won't spend too much time on that. But the key is that we make it really easy to use by leveraging the same Teams workflow that everyone's used to. So you schedule a call in Teams the same way you always would. You forward the invite to everyone who you want to join. If someone wants to join from a meeting room or a fixed device, they forward that onto the meeting and off you go. And we deliver our CVI completely as a service. There's nothing for you to worry about in terms of having to spin stuff up or manage it yourself. We do all of that as part of the service. Next slide, please, Ms. Souza. And one of the things that sets our CVI apart as well is, at the moment, I believe I'm right in saying we're the only CVI provider that actually also has the hardware options in our kit bag. So we've got that end-to-end piece covered. So we're here to try and help manage that transition from where you are today to where we all want to be, which is in that native Teams world. So that sets us apart from some of the other providers, because all they do is the CVI piece. So they're actually sat there hoping you never make it into that migrated native Teams environment, because if you do, they don't have a business left. Whereas actually we're fully motivated to assist you on that journey, because we've got everything you need right the way along the life cycle to get the most out of it. Yep, Matuza, next slide, please. Thank you. So one of the other pieces that I think Neil again alluded to a few times was a solution we call PolyLens. This is trying to solve a problem that certainly if you come from the old video world like I do, was always a bit of a headache over how do you get that what inventory do I have? How do I do the the updates to my devices? How do I push the configs? How do I do the software updates? And so our answer to that historically was, yep, you need to install a nice big application, make it live somewhere on premise, and off you go. PolyLens is our answer for the new world where everything is cloud-based. So it's all delivered out of the cloud, hosted in Azure. It's available today for the soundbars and the trios. It's coming very soon for the handsets and probably nearer the end of the year for the headsets. But by the time they're in there, effectively our entire current range will be available in the cloud platform. And the way that we've tried to build this is that what we consider the basics, table stakes, is inventory management, software updates, config management. That's, I hate to say this as a sales guy, it's free. So just get out there, sign up, get on and use it, right? And what we're doing then is building the enhancements. So again, Neil referred to what we're doing with the artificial intelligence, the capturing of the data. Let me just move on a slide, Matuza. So what we're able to do is use all the intelligence that built into the hardware that we've got, gather that up and deliver it back as actionable insights. And so today that looks like being able to count how many people are in a meeting room, and also actually count how many chairs are in a meeting room, because the cameras are clever enough to work out there are 4 chairs and there are 3 people. Fantastic, we know that. Right now, the insights bit is free, but cards on the table. Once we develop it sufficiently and we're happy that it's adding a lot of value, that bit will become a chargeable part of the service. But the first part I talked about around the management and the inventory, that's always going to be free. So anyone can sign up for an account on that. So if you've got any current Poly devices, so the bits that the guys have been showing you today, jump on, have a go. I'd highly recommend it. And yeah, keep us going, Matuza. So bit of an eye chart here, so apologies for that. But basically what I wanted to point out here is we've got loads of services to help you get your devices in your enterprise ready for Teams. Whether it's doing that initial planning of how do I get from my old world with a mixed estate of standards-based video across into Teams. What's the user experience going to be like when I make the various moves along the path? How do I demonstrate that to my wider business, and how do I build up the business case to show people what they're going to get as we progress along the journey? We can address that with envisioning. If you're coming from an on-prem solution and moving out to the cloud for the first time, the network assessment services we have can be very useful in terms of that change in workflow and methodology. Or if you already got the network piece sorted and it's just about a question of how do we get the most out of this, we've got a lot of best practice adoption consulting we can help to make sure that your users really know how to get the most out of the tools that we're deploying. And equally, we've also got some services that actually help set up Teams itself, whether that's user migration or working out on the PBX side. Effectively an end-to-end lifecycle set of services that we'd love to talk to you more about. But move on to my last slide, please, Matuza. Cool, but conscious I've just covered a whole load of stuff there in a whistle-stop tour. So what I thought I'd leave you with is a little bit of an offer, actually. We've just conscious of all the change that's going on in the world, both with regard to Teams and the wider environment. We've decided to give a little bit something back. So what we're doing is we're open offer for any customer out there can come and have a free 20-minute complimentary consultation, and this will be delivered typically by our solution consultants, which are usually a chargeable resource. But as I say, you won't end up talking to a sales guy. This is about how do we get you talking to a practitioner who delivers the services that I just talked about, just to try and give you 20 minutes of where do I start, or which particular which particular challenge do I want to get some hints and tips on. So the link's there at the bottom, and I'm sure we'll make this available. It's on the public internet as well. But if anybody wants to come and have a free 20-minute consultation with one of our consultants, feel free to sign up, and we'd love to talk to you a bit further. But that was it from me for now, Matuza. On to the next one, please.
Thank you, Zev. So I've stopped sharing, and we'll put the three of our experts on the spot now, starting with Ahmed Souza, who's really excited. He's been in his cycling suit since morning to do this demo. Come on, Ahmed.
Okay, so let me just move my laptop a bit. And now I'm in my, you can say, professional or semi-professional, bike. And with a little logo here that says I love Poly, and let me adjust that a bit. Okay, so we thought about how do we demonstrate the audio capability of our headsets, and like we said, there are lots of noise sources that usually comes in the office, outside the office, when you have people around you. And working from home, we all work from home, you can get disturbed, like maybe you are now, with my indoor trainer. Now, you might ask me, why did you select an indoor trainer and you didn't cycle outdoors? Well, I'm looking at my phone, and in Dubai now, it's 34 degrees with 61% humidity, and feels like 44. So I'm not really willing to do that. So I decided to stay home. Yeah. So I think it's enough noise for you. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pick up my headset and show you how the experience could look like. So let me switch my headset. You can do many things, and when the laptop is far away. Okay, so hopefully you still hear me. Okay, and you still get the bad noise from my
indoor tuner? Hopefully.
No.
Okay, excellent. So a very short demonstration with a lot of sweat coming. I deserve this.
Keep hydrated.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Thank you.
Great demo, Ahmed. But next time, please practice more. You're puffing too much. After that, can we ask Neil to come and do a presentation for us now, or a demo for us?
Of course. So I'm going to bring up some content here, and I'm going to just set the scene for Mr. Clark. So let me just throw this slide up here, this content up here. Hopefully you can see that okay. Someone confirm you can see it okay before I get too far down the line.
Yes.
Good. Okay, great. So what you're seeing here is the raw output of our camera and the artificial intelligence that I talked about. What I wanted to do is take you under the hood and show you exactly what's going on in our cameras with our tracking and framing technology. And then I'm going to hand over to Jonathan, and he's going to show you that actually live. As I say, no safety nets. We're going to do this live. So inside our cameras, and this is from the kind of basic USB studio camera right the way up to our higher end Eagle Eye director style cameras, we have multiple elements of machine learning and artificial intelligence in there. So the first thing that we do is we de-warp the image, and you can see the image is kind of pin cushioned around the video there. And so I'll just highlight this for you. So you can see it's kind of squished in at the sides and squished in at the top. Now the reason we do that is because if you have a very wide angle lens, it can make everyone look a little bit fat. No one wants to look a little bit fat. Everyone wants to look normal on video. So we pin cushion the image to make sure that the lines of the ceiling along the top, the lines of the skirting, the lines of the table, and that David and Rommel here don't look as if they're bigger than they should be. So that's the first thing we do, is we do that real-time video de-warping. The next bit that we do is we actually then look for the faces in the room. So you can see here the two green boxes on David's face with the coordinates, and we're actually then detecting those as faces. And that's what we use in that the logs that Zav talked about, the fact that we can track and log exactly how many people in the meeting room. So this is very important at the moment when you're looking at the analytics and the usage of your rooms, with people going back into the office and seeing just how many people are cramming into these meeting rooms, and also looking at meeting room utilization as well. So it gives you that great insights into the room. So again, the facial recognition that we use inside our cameras is there. Now you can also see this blue box here, the blue square that's around David and Rommel, and that's selecting the area of interest. So this is saying this is where we're detecting faces and people. This is the area I'm going to be framing into to look at. And then lastly, you can see this cyan bar here, this sort of light blue bar here on the left hand side. This is audio triangulation. So this is looking where people are speaking, and this is how we're doing the face mask detection at the moment. Is we're seeing an element of a face, but we're not necessarily seeing the whole face, and then using that audio triangulation as an additional overlay on top of that. Now, interestingly, this is a video, so if I just kind of run through and just show you this as the more and more people come into the room, you can see that that real time happening then as people come in and as they talk between each other. I'm just sort of fast forwarding through here, so you can see the algorithm actually working and tracking these people. What I'm going to do now is show you that's the under the hood view. So that's to say what's happening inside the AI algorithm inside the camera. But what does that look like as a produced video event to the people at the far end? So here is that same room, same camera, but the actual raw produced output. So as Alan goes to speak here, the camera zooms into Alan and brings him front and center. So for that one person that's sheltering at home or doing homeschooling or whatever, they get a full view of then Gabriella as Gabriella goes to talk in the meeting room. As Diana talks, the camera smoothly pans across to Diana and brings her front and center, so that that remote person at home is not looking at a bunch of small little dots at the end of the table. As then Diana and Gabriella have a chat between each other, the AI algorithm says, okay, you two are talking, you're quite close together, I'll pull out and frame both of you in this shot. Now, Luciana then comes in and she's slightly further away. So what we do is we do a cut. So because they're a bit further away, rather than doing a big wipe and a big move, we actually do a cut to them. And then as David goes to speak now, again, we do a cut. Now, look what happens in a second when David and Luciana talk between each other. This is where we get this conversation mode. We see a conversation happening between these participants, and we do that split screen that we talked about. So actually bringing both participants on the screen at the same time. Now, a lot of the time with any device, whether it be a headset, whether it be a camera, whether it be a video device, a lot of the time we concentrate on what we receive. We want the biggest TV, the biggest screen, the best speakers, the great headphones. What we don't concentrate on is what we send to the far end. It is that, as I say, as we go back to work in the office, people are still going to stay at home because they want to or because they have to, and trying to produce the best possible experience as if they are in that meeting room and are with those people is what it's all around with our video and audio innovations at Poly. And the tracking and the framing that you saw there, and now this conversation mode, is inbuilt into the hardware of our camera. So it doesn't matter what application you're using, Teams or any other application, you get that tracking and framing. Now, don't take my word for it, because what we're going to do next is get Mr. Clark up, and Mr. Clark is going to show you that actually happening in real time, and he's going to show you a new production rule, which is even better than just switching between the people who are speaking. Jonathan, can I throw the mic to you?
You can throw the mic to me. Thank you very much. Yes, Jonathan Clark here. I am seated in my study at home using the Poly Studio, which is a peripheral to the Microsoft Teams room, the G40 version. And what I've got is what we call presenter mode. So as I'm seated and talking to you now, I'm using the camera and it's just picking me up and putting me front and center. Now, if I want to get a move around because I'm working from home and I want to do, I don't know, some training, some education, something like that, basically all I need to do is get up and walk about in my home office if I want to walk and talk, or if I have a whiteboard, if I want to do some training at the edge of the room, I can just walk about and I can engage, and it's a much more engaging experience for those people on the far end if I were training, or if I'm in a small room with other students, if it's an education environment. It's giving that ability to walk and talk, but I don't have to pick up any remote controls. I don't have to control the camera. I just have to engage, make sure that you're listening, and make it much more dynamic. Give it some energy for those remote presentations. Obviously, don't walk around too much, as I told in my Amdram days. Talk, move, deliver your line, then move and deliver another line. So you've got all that, the technology. Now, as Neil mentioned before, what happens if you've got that blended environment where you've got to teach people, or you're in a healthcare type environment where you've got to wear one of these masks? Will it work in that environment? Well, here's the test. You can see my mouth moving. The camera's picking me up. As I move around, it's seeing my face. So it's got all those algorithms that Neil showed, doing all that sort of good stuff. And hopefully it's picking up the microphone through this voice as well, so you can hear me still as clear as you can, with a little bit of muffle through the device, through the face mask. But the camera is still tracking me. I don't need to worry about that. The technology is built into it. So that's the camera tracking capability. Obviously, we've talked about acoustic innovations, and I've got my Teams coloured bag of crisps here that I normally eat at 2:45 on a Tuesday afternoon. So I'll eat that, and it's going to be a little bit distracting. So we've got some noise suppression that's just taking out some of that extraneous noise. You can still hear it, but you can certainly hear my voice a lot clearer. And if I was to stop speaking and just, munch away at my bag of crisps, automatically gates it out without me having to do anything. Neil also mentioned extraneous noises that happen outside that, what we call acoustic fence. And I've got this system set up so that I'm within the zone at the moment, but because of the beamforming multiple microphones in the device, I can set some angles. So I've got this on a narrow band. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk out. Now, I could be miming here, but what I'll do is I'll count and I'll go and stand by the wall. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Into the zone that the microphone picks up my voice and starts tracking. So if there were any extraneous noises, you maybe have some small classrooms next to each other in this blended learning environment that you didn't want that noise to bleed from one classroom to another, you can certainly gate that out using this acoustic fence technology. So these are the types of innovations that we're building into the Microsoft Teams rooms. into those collaboration bars for teams to make a much better meeting experience for those working at home remotely with their headsets on, riding a bike, noise cancelling, out in the field, doing your geography field trip that you might be doing, giving you that really, really good Teams experience using these certified devices. I think that's it from me, Matuza. I think we've run over as well, so I do apologise.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So to all the participants, thanks for joining. And if there are any questions, we can still hang on to this Teams call. So feel free to use this as a breakout session and ask the questions. So over to you.